Which doll is the black doll? And which one is the white doll?
That one.
Which doll is the pretty doll? Which doll is the nice doll? Which doll is the bad doll? Which doll is the nice doll? And which doll is the bad doll? And why is that doll pretty?
Because she's white and he has 2 eyes.
Which doll is the ugly doll? Why is that doll ugly?
Because he's black.
Which doll looks most like you?
Like me.
Yeah, which one looks like you?
And that one.
Okay.
That doll.
You know, after watching that psychological experiment to see how children feel, how black children are reared to feel about themselves, that they are less smart and less beautiful and less good than a white child, a non-black child, I should say, you know. I mean, we can tell our children how beautiful and how black and beautiful they are, but when they go to school, they receive different messages, you know, in the way a teacher might handle them or speak to them or minimize their intelligence, you know. Racism is truly a systemic issue, you know. And the sad thing about it is that a lot of times our kids leave the house happy for school and then they come home and we're wondering what we've done, why they look sad, why they're withdrawn, why they seem to have given up before they even turn 10 or 15 years old, you know. And that's part of the reason why. Because as a parent, who do you complain to when your kids are treated differently in the classroom? There's never any accountability. And, you know, a lot of people fear change or fear being a part of the initiation of making sure changes are made in the way how society reacts and values black people, you know. But we can't continue on generation after generation watching our children go through the same motions, because these children's belief that the dolls represent a black child and a white child, these children, it's repeated history that they are grown because of systemic racism. From a child, they grow up and can observe the difference in the way society interacts with black people in comparison to the more predominant ethnic group here in North America. And that is why it's so important that as a black community that we come out on April the 11th and we use our voices and unite as a community and demand that anti-black racism laws be implemented into the book of legislation here in Ontario. I mean, you could see how sad these kids look because they identify with the black doll that's not as smart and not as beautiful. We need to break these cycles and break generational trauma. You know, this all started from slavery days when black people, black children from their babies are taught that if you're lighter or whiter, you're better. More value is placed on you as an individual. You're not beautiful because you're black. For the children's sake and for the children of tomorrow, we need to come out and petition the Legislative Assembly of Ontario to implement these anti-Black racism laws. As a mom, I can tell you that my Black children have been through experiences within the Toronto District School Board and other school boards within Ontario. And unless you be real loud and make threats, nothing is ever done. It's about time that the system, that society, those placed into society like school boards, teachers, doctors, police, that they be held accountable for the role they play in instilling in our Black children's minds that they're not beautiful because they're Black, that they're not smart because they are Black. This experiment shows you a lot, that from kindergarten days, when we send our kids to school or we send them into community centers and what have you, these are the messages being relayed. You know that poem that says, children live what they learn. Definitely, our Black children for generations have lived and believed that we are not good enough, and they don't see any unity amongst the adults fighting that belief that's embedded into their little minds since they're little. We need to stand up as the elders and make a change. They say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, on Friday, April the 11th, inside the Legislative Assembly grounds of Ontario, the village needs to get together and fight for the sake and the mindset of our beautiful Black children coming up. You don't know. I am Vanessa St. Louis, the CEO of Black People United for Change. And if not standing for yourself, we need to stand for our Black children and be the voice for the voiceless. I hope to see you there as part of the members of our Black village to stand up for our kids and give them a brighter day tomorrow. Friday, April the 11th at 1 p.m. at 111 Wellesley Street West at the Legislative Assembly grounds of Ontario.